Welcome everyone to Short-Term Rental Intel. Today we have superhero Emily Farmer, who has worn many hats inside of Hostē and has been one of the most integral people for Hostē. She has helped in every department from guest communications to overseeing and innovating some of the best processes in our property care department to now onboarding specialist, which is an extremely critical role in bringing a home onto Hostē's property management services. She's essentially a project manager extraordinaire as these homes come on, and she goes over everything from safety to what's in the home to services, all to those little details so that we know when that home goes live and is published on all these different OTAs that we know the guest is going to have an amazing guest experience, they're going to be safe, and they're going to want to return to a Hostē home. So welcome, Emily Farmer.
Thank you. That was a really nice introduction,
Well
Kilian.
deserved.
I mean, I feel like you wrote that last night and have been saving it for me, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I could say the same nice things about you, too. You know, you are one of my best coworkers, one of my favorite humans at work.
Thank
so
you.
everything that I've learned, it's usually coming from you.
Well, that's wonderful. I appreciate that. Well, tell us a little bit about how you got started with Hostē. Where did that even begin?
About 2 years ago. So I just passed my 2-year anniversary. Did you know that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Did I brag about it enough this week?
I should have written that into the introduction.
So I had an office job that I absolutely hated. I knew Jill from a job previous from that office management company, and I just know that she was having a great time working for Hostē. So I kept messaging her because I needed something different. I didn't want to sit in an office. The office that I was at didn't allow you to talk at all.
Oh,
You
that's
had to
terrible.
be silent.
I couldn't handle it.
I can't handle that. So I want to at least smile and have a chit chat with my
What was
coworkers.
Was this the kickboxing
So
franchise?
before the office job, I did work at kickboxing,
Okay.
or the I Love Kickboxing Studio with
Okay.
Jill, and
That's where you guys met.
that is how we met. Yeah.
So just for the audience listening, Jill is Evan Wilburn's fiance, who Evan has been on all these podcasts, one of the co-founders of Hostē. So
Jill has been pretty awesome too. I've learned a lot from her with dealing with different Hostē situations. But she helped me. She introduced me to Hostē, and I came in for that interview. And I didn't have any experience in the short-term rental history, but I have a lot of experience in responding to emergencies or dealing with priorities and deadlines. And I love the idea of making a process smoother and teaching other people about it. And I don't know if that all came to light as soon as I started working for Hostē, but I think that my passion definitely has helped at Hostē over the past 2 years.
And so you started in really guest communications.
Yeah, that's kind of your first role, right, at Hostē?
Tell us about that.
Let's get you to answer the phones, send some messages to guests, and see how you do there. So, yeah, I was in guest communications, and I even took the standby phone. We would share a cell phone to make sure that guests overnight had contacts if there was anything emergency-wise, or if they just couldn't get into the house, or if they didn't know how to use a remote, we'd be there for them, you know? So I did my part for probably good 8 months until, I guess a little bit longer than that. Let's see. So that first year, I'm trying to remember when COVID hit, right?
Spring of 2020.
That's right. So that was my 8 months in was when we were all told that we could not function.
That the travel industry essentially was shutting down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think before then too, doing guest comms, I was also doing inspections and things like that. And so I think I was one of the first people to be called to say, you know, that we're trying to figure out who the priority is at work, and running inspections right now wouldn't be one of the priorities. It would be probably guest communications and making sure that our owners are being taken care of.
So for people who are out there doing this themselves, who are talking to their own guests, what advice would you give them? What would you tell them?
That I think for sure setting up good expectations. When this guest is coming in, how often are they able to get a hold of you? And guests are able to help themselves if you give them the tools and resources. So as much as it may be painstaking to write a guidebook, or to maybe there's something different where you are texting them different instructions and things like that, resources where they like to sit down and read about the house, read about the environment, the area, the region that they're in, and then how to work the Wi-Fi and help themselves. So, and they want tips. They want tips to be entertained. So for the hiking, for the entertainment, for the restaurants, if you're giving them all these tools, you're only going to have to help, here and there during emergency situations or other pieces of advice, instead of, having to create this vacation with them when they get here. So
that's wonderful advice.
Yeah. What would you tell them?
What would I tell guests working or homeowners working with guests in terms of guest communication? I think what you said right off the bat when you first answered the question, that's setting good expectations on really the types of things that they should reach out to you about and how often and your availabilities. And that's not that you're ignoring them or not being a good host. It's just that some guests will reach for anything and everything that they potentially can.
Sure, absolutely. It's tough, right? The hotel industry is a little different. You do have someone that has your rotating shifts. So somebody's nice and fresh and relieved for that morning shift. They get to go home and relax and be totally disconnected. If I was an owner renting out to my own home or maybe my two homes, I'm 24/7 unless I can find an assistant or my husband or my partner that can also answer that phone and answer any of those questions. So you have to tell those guests those shut-off times and let them know that it'll be all right until the morning. We'll get to them.
What do you think you did to kind of implement processes in guest communication? Anything that jumps out? Kind
of like helping with that with the expectations. Instead of having to feel like you have to log into 10 or the 15 check-ins that are checking in today, we already had automations in place for auto messages, but how can we tweak those auto messages, and then is there anything that needs to be followed up if they do ask those type of questions? Saving those types of replies for immediate finding, so you don't have to search and find where the router is. You can send them a quick message. You don't have to retype the whole thing every time. So. And
that was back when we were in that office, all cramped there together.
Pretty much,
fun. Yeah. 3 or 4 people in one room doing guest communications. Mm-hmm. So 8 months of guest communications roughly, and then what was the next step?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I guess, the next step was, how can I continue to help Hostē? There was that call that we had COVID. So whenever COVID shut down, it was really just Philip and when COVID shut everything down, it was just the guys trying to run everything. They didn't, have any funds to pay anybody to help them. And they had homeowners that they still needed to take care of. Most of our reservations were canceled, but some of them were still able to come in because it was a longer stay, or it soon turned into housing was still a need. So, half of the office wasn't able to come back and help them. So when we were able to come back, I was doing a little bit of everything. So it was helping out with, help with scheduling cleaners, scheduling the maintenance guys. Does this home need a contractor for the plumbing? Okay, I'm going to call a plumber and I'm going to coordinate that. And then how much is this plumber? How much are you, plumber? What's your service call? Okay, and what is exactly wrong? Okay, I'm going to write that down because I'm going to relay it to the current guest if they're there, or we're going to put it on the accounting side, which I also was helping out with slightly to make sure that owners were aware of it before it hit their statement the next month of how much they're going to be charged. So it was pretty much a plethora of everything after COVID to figure out where I did fit in. I guess I was still guest communications, but,
This was around April, May?
I want to say I came back in May. So we were gone mid-March, and then I came back.
I came back around June, July.
Yeah, and you just surprised me,
Hey, welcome back.
Oh, yeah. Kilian's working again at Hostē. Thank God, because
welcome back.
We need some help. But, yeah, it was pretty cool. What made, where were you during this time, and what made you want to? How did you miss us, or just me,
absolutely.
or okay.
You specifically?
Yeah.
But so right before COVID hit, I had transitioned away from Hostē back into medical sales. I actually had made the move to Fort Collins. I thought that's where my heart was at after about a year with Hostē. And then I moved up there. I was out there for maybe a month and a half in the medical field, going into offices. So when COVID hit, it hit that industry pretty hard right off the bat. And it was interesting, maybe a blessing in disguise, because I moved back and I had jumped back into a more of a corporate position overseeing Colorado, part of Colorado and Wyoming as a territory. And so, and that's where I'd come from before meeting Evan and Phil and joining Hostē. So I'd come from that kind of corporate sales background, and I think I was in it just long enough again to realize, like, how wonderful of a company was being built with Hostē, where you could, I mean, you think about all the ideas that you've brought to Hostē over the past 2 years. Those ideas in a company that, I had just went to work for, I'd come from previously, they go completely unheard, completely unheard. And even if you know a better way of doing something, that's not going to be implemented. And so we really wouldn't be where we were today if we couldn't pivot so quickly and we weren't taking advice from you, from everyone, and being able to pivot like that. So I know I always kind of see it as a blessing in disguise, and I've never been happier to be back, frankly.
Same here. Yeah. I don't think that we could have survived a little any more than we had without you. You know, I felt there was a giant hole. You are very knowledgeable, and seeing you before you had left and after you had left, I really do think that you have this different attitude and this different passion. Just like you were saying, that you see what the potential is here at Hostē and what they're building here.
Yeah, well, likewise, and you're making me blush here. This is about your 2-year anniversary. Yeah. Oh. No, but I mean, likewise, and I remember, so going into into 2021, where we were kind of in the winter, or end of 2020, we were ramping back up again. People were still doing all sorts of different tasks. The owner account management wasn't quite figured out, who was overseeing property care. Everything was still kind of getting evened out again after COVID and getting the wrinkles out of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there'd be nights at 9, 10:30, we'd be onboarding homes and just whatever it took to kind of get things back up. And only now really do I feel that a lot of those wrinkles are starting to get, and not in a bad way at all, but I mean, we've gone from that to now 401ks, health insurance almost completely taken care of, and it's been a crazy year. Well,
and there's been a lot of opportunity, and you can't have wrinkles without finally having a flat sheet. So, right? There's not a good.
You know about flat sheets.
I do. And non-hairy flat sheets that are nice and clean and crisp. So a lot has changed. I remember sitting in the room that 1 year ago, and it was just the 3 or 4 of us. And then we were sitting in the meeting earlier that we had this week, and what was there, 20 of us? There was 20 people helping us run each one of these departments.
22.
Is that how many? I don't know. I didn't get a chance to count, but all the bagels were gone and most of the coffee. So a lot of people were there. And I'm just imagining that, there's so many more ideas and possibilities with everybody else that sees the same potential at Hostē. And yes, I think we are very blessed to have 2 bosses that are 2 owners that are open to our ideas, to testing out different processes, because this is all about helping each other, helping a community, helping families enjoy their time. Did you grow up with family vacations every summer? I grew up every summer going on a 2-week vacation with my family I have have 2 brothers and a sister, mom and dad, and a dog in a Suburban. We would get in the car in Texas
Suburban.
and drive 24 hours. They would drive overnight. Can't stop at a hotel. It's too expensive. So we'd sleep at gas stations or wherever else, rest stops. Finally get to grandma's in Ohio, spend a week there, and we'd drive down to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach every summer for 2 weeks. And it was so exciting. That was the refresher for our family.
There you go.
Everything. And we would save up everything for that. So when we would show up to Ohio or show up to Myrtle Beach to the hotel that we were staying at, we did want to have things that are perfect. We wanted to see familiarity. We knew the managers of the hotels at that point. Yeah. And we knew the arcade people, the managers there. When families are coming here to Colorado Springs and we're making an awesome, badass experience, and we have employees that are helping out, creating new ideas and sending them messages of how are you, and here's a tip for this area, and if you didn't get to hike this time, try this hike this next time. That's what they're looking for, and we're all capable of doing that. This is, such a great opportunity to help other people make experiences and remember us.
That right there is the passion and the value that has grown Hostē to 170 properties.
Mm-hmm. Is that what we're at now?
Yeah. By the end of September, we've got a bunch of beautiful properties. But you could talk a little bit about what is onboarding. I think one of the most interesting things one of many, but an interesting thing about short-term rental property management is this 3-week period from the point that someone chooses to use a property management company and the point where their home gets live and starts to be published. Mm-hmm. There's kind of this black hole that people who are new to the industry, who are bringing their home on board with a management company, might not know about. And that's where you step in. What do you want people to know about onboarding, how to onboard a home correctly, what they should be thinking about, what maybe they shouldn't even be thinking about, like, hey, that's not really a concern, let's focus our energy here. Mm-hmm. What would you say as you begin from taking your guest communication experience, you're completely running the property care department, overseeing 150 homes, now to being the tip of the spear, assisting and bringing these homes on board?
I'm going to bring it back just as that example of, how if you're a homeowner running your own home and you feel like you're a 24/7 hour train where you're answering questions and you're trying to take care of all of their requests. But if you have a partner that can be the other half where you can step aside, have a refresher, Hostē has that opportunity, right? We have that opportunity where we can have guest comms come on board. They can focus on certain homes. You can have a staff that is in that rotating staff that can be able to take vacations and not feel like they're not able to take a break at all. So if you are to train more guest comms, more partners, you want your homes to stay consistent. You want your homes to have the amenities, the great amenities, but you don't want to be too different from all of the rest of the ones. So you would want a standard in most of the homes, right? Like if you don't want a grill, then that's fine. And maybe grill isn't a safety regulation in your home. Maybe you don't have the opportunity for that. What I'm saying is that if every home has all the kitchen appliances that we can expect, then guest comms has an easier time instead of filtering through the information for that home to understand how to answer a guest question that is coming in for Thanksgiving and they want a turkey baster because they're going to be feeding 16 people, to get together and have a good time, and they don't have time to run out to the store. They don't know where the stores are, or maybe it is a rural area. I'm just saying if we could have the expectations set up at the house that is consistent, if the owner can stay on track with us on that and trust us, and then we can easily hire and schedule and train new guest comms to be consistent with their answers, they can have all of those little things out of the way, and we can actually enhance a guest experience where we can start adding. And if they're asking us about a turkey baster and we learn that they're having a huge family get-together for Thanksgiving, then what can we do to make that experience better? Hey, do you guys like wine? Now this guest comms or somebody else on our team has time to go purchase the wine, deliver the wine, maybe write a handwritten note to welcome this family that hasn't seen each other in years because of COVID. So if their house is consistent, if a guest comms can learn each individual house with those just the same as a hotel. There's a bed, lamp, dresser.
A standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if the homes aren't too different, so in onboarding, in a 2-week onboarding process, we are inventorying the house and making sure all of those standards are there. And if they're not, are they required, suggested, or recommended? What can we go with to help the homeowner still not burn a hole in their pocket, but still be consistent enough for the guest comms to feel comfortable saying, yes, we do have that, or yes, we can do that at this house. So
And that can be a handful.
I love processes. I love my checklists, and
Yes.
I've come a long way with them, and I feel like we're getting at a really good spot where we can be a little bit quicker and help these homeowners get more income quicker instead of delaying any onboarding process. But
Yeah, because I think that's a little scary for some of them when they finally turn their home over to Hostē. There's a gap. Hey, what's going on between the point that I gave you the home to manage to the first guest checking in? And recently we went through the Breezeway short-term rental safety inspection course. And we had our eyes opened up to things that we would have never considered and the typical homeowner would never consider, especially if someone has been living in the home and now they're turning it over to be a short-term rental. They've been living there for several years. None of these things ever happened to them. They would never do that. But when you hand it over and you start running it as essentially a hotel, a professional luxury vacation rental, then there's people doing things in the home that you could never even predict, or the potential for things to happen that you can never predict. And so now you add that whole layer of the safety inspection. What level of safety are we bringing to this industry? It's a whole nother layer onto the onboarding that, most people never think about when they think about putting their home up on Airbnb.com.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. There was a lot that we learned with our safety inspector that came.
What was the most shocking thing for you?
Well,
some of those were just downright terrifying.
A little bit. A little bit.
know?
And he's right. Out of how many guests that we've had over this past year, it is a little bit of a miracle that we haven't had anything that's happened that's been too bad, right? There's a lot of opportunity there that we didn't see that could.
I would say, too, that we, through our maintenance onboarding inspections and just through our old onboarding process, I think we brought a level of safety and a level of inspection. So I think that's helped us quite a bit. But the level that it's been brought to is just a whole nother. It's professional.
Yeah. Well, safety is sexy.
That's what we learned this week. That's the message.
And I think we're all digging it, though.
Yes.
I think, it's again, you can't prevent everything, right? And it's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. So when this does happen, how does our team react? But then in the future or right now, what can we do to reduce our risk?
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. And that's what we want to educate our homeowners in the onboarding process. So yeah, inventory is important because we want to stay consistent. But what can we do to help, again, prevent the family that comes in with their 2-year-old and then you chose this property because it has a hot tub? The least that we could do is make sure that we have on our steps for our cleaning crew and for our maintenance crew that hot tub cleaning or that hot tub cover is locked, that the back door is locked, that it's inaccessible for a 3-year-old that's exploring. My 3-year-old wants to touch everything. And that was the most shocking thing too. You do look around at some of these homes and you realize that some of these kids can get into a lot of things. If a home there's a backyard with some old pieces of lumber. Nothing big. The grass has kind of overgrown it. You can't really see it. It's behind the shed, but my 3-year-old's going to find it.
Yeah.
He's going to want to climb on it. So, those are the type of things and that's easy. We can fix that during the onboarding process. We can fix that now if it's a current home that we've had on for a while,
Yes.
So there was some shocking things, but it's shocking because it's so easily fixable and preventable. And I'm excited to get on, the tasks of how we can clean it all up and make it better. So, but we're starting from the beginning now with onboarding. We are trained now where our eyes are able to catch everything.
And you have, when people get the home all set up, so say the getting everything in the home that you need is in there, it's standardized. You got everything, you got all your boxes covered. as far as inventorying the home. The next step, whether you're using a property management service, you're bringing your Airbnb live for the first time, you're doing it yourself, whatever. Once you get everything in there and there's that excitement to get the home listed and start hosting guests, just take one extra step and do a thorough safety inspection. Check your smoke alarms, your carbon monoxide alarms. Check your vents. Make sure there's dust and lint building up that can cause fire hazards. Look for tripping. One of the largest demographics of vacation rental travelers is the older, the 50 plus, the folks that trips and little tripping hazards like that, not having a banister to grab onto. That can be detrimental to someone
or
in their later
even
years.
Lighting when they show up late at night. They've been driving all day.
What do you think about candles in short-term rentals?
Oh my, those are
the more candles in the bedroom, the better. Or no?
No candles. I'll cut all the wicks out, and then I've put them in locked closets actually, and so I don't know. That's
Cut out the wicks.
There's little LED candles that are just as great and have awesome ambiance.
We hope to get Justin Ford from the Breezeway short-term rental inspection safety course. He's the innovator, the leader in this industry, hoping to get him on this podcast. So
yeah, that would be great. He said he could. So I'm going to hold him to it. He was telling us too. So once a home is certified, and he shared the checklist with me. Once we've completed the checklist on a certain home, then we send it to him and his team to review. Then they send us this wonderful badge.
Oh, very nice.
And you can put that badge, I don't know, wherever you want at the home, I guess, or you could probably put it on the marketing tab too, that it has been certified for safety short-term rentals. But either way,
is sexy.
Again, it is, right? And it's pretty fun. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
That's wonderful.
I want the badge on a jacket, like
a Letterman jacket.
Yeah, burned it.
We need Hostē Letterman jackets, guest comms, property care management. You'd have a bunch. You'd be all decorated.
And then we can have a song and dance when we come out. And then
So at the end of the day, it's about the guest experience.
Hey, if we're having fun, the guests are having fun, the owners are happy.
Yeah.
Really.
So where do you see the next year going?
Oh my gosh, that's really, I think I was in property care for a whole year before I came into onboarding, right? And I see how much property care has changed over the past year. And I know that people that are in property care now want to grow as well. And I know the directions that they want to grow into. So being able to expand into Hostē experiences, having in-home experiences like the in-home chef or the yoga experience, I think that's pretty awesome. And then being able to have the time to add to those type of opportunities, to those, what else can we do? We have those couple that we're offering, but right now our staff is fully focused on emergency guest requests, or making sure that we just have everything that we need for the home. I really want to get to that point, and I think we will in the next year, of being able to run a smooth sailing ship and then adding to it. How do we get to a party boat from a sail ship to a party boat? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the guests are joining. The owners are joining, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, Emily Farmer, Hostē extraordinaire and currently onboarding specialist for Hostē. Thanks for joining us. And
thank you. I'm glad somebody said to record our conversation.
Yeah,
for once. That's
We'll do a reality TV show next. The owner acquisition, Hostē onboarding show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take it on HGTV.
Yeah. That's a big one. All right. To the moon. Let's go.
To the moon.
Thanks.